In the story of how people gain genuine respect, psychology reveals that it is never about speaking the loudest or trying to impress others, but about the subtle signals we give off in the smallest moments. Imagine a person entering a room quietly yet confidently, without rushing to prove anything. People naturally sense stability in them. Researchers say that respect begins even before words are exchanged, starting with the way someone carries themselves, how they pause before speaking, and how they make others feel seen. When you watch individuals who are deeply respected, whether leaders, mentors, or everyday people in your own life, you notice this calm strength that comes not from arrogance but from inner clarity. The story you're about to hear unfolds through 5 powerful psychological secrets, but before understanding them, picture yourself in moments where you wished others understood your value, moments where you knew you had something to offer but weren't recognized. This script will guide you through the transformation from being overlooked to becoming someone whose presence alone commands appreciation. Throughout this journey, you'll see how small adjustments in your behavior, mindset, and emotional intelligence create profound shifts in how people respond to you, often without you even trying. And as you move deeper into the story, these insights will weave together into a narrative showing that respect is not given. It's earned through the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others. There was a time when people believed dominance equaled respect, but psychology proves something entirely different. Authenticity creates deeper influence than intimidation ever could. Imagine a character named Zayn, someone who always wanted to be taken seriously but never found the right way to express himself. He spoke loudly, tried to control conversations, and surrounded himself with noise, thinking that boldness would make others admire him. But instead, he pushed people away. When he finally discovered the psychology behind how humans form impressions, he realized that true respect comes from the ability to regulate emotions. People admire those who stay composed under pressure rather than those who react impulsively. One day, when everyone around him panicked about a difficult situation at work, Zayn remained calm. He took a slow breath, analyzed the issue, and guided others without raising his voice. That single moment shifted how people saw him. It wasn't the solution he offered, but the stability he showed, allowing others to rely on him. This mirrors something psychologists call the anchor: respect those who emotionally anchor the room. If you become the person who stays grounded even when others feel overwhelmed, you naturally step into a leadership role without demanding one. And in that shift, Zayn learned that respect is built not by showcasing strength but by radiating steadiness. As we move deeper into the story, another secret emerges: the power of active listening, a simple skill many underestimate. People respect those who make them feel heard, and this begins with something psychologists call reflective presence. It means listening with such focus that the other person feels their thoughts matter. Another character in our story, Aisha, unknowingly mastered this. She rarely interrupted, never rushed to give opinions, and when others spoke, she would tilt her head slightly, make gentle eye contact, and offer thoughtful pauses. Over time, people came to her with their worries, ideas, and dreams, even though she hardly ever gave direct advice. Why? Because humans instinctively feel valued when someone truly listens to them. When Aisha finally spoke, her words carried weight, not because she was louder or smarter, but because she paid attention. This created psychological respect known as the listener's authority. People began to introduce her as someone wise, calm, and trustworthy, even though she never claimed those labels. This teaches an important truth: the depth of your listening determines the depth of the respect you receive. Anyone can speak, but only a few can listen with intention, and the world respects those few. The next psychological secret revolves around consistency, one of the most powerful yet underrated elements of respect. Consider a person who promises something small but never follows through. People quickly lose trust, even if the unfulfilled promise wasn't significant. In contrast, someone who consistently does what they say, even in the smallest tasks, becomes reliable in the eyes of everyone around them. A man named Danish had a habit of fulfilling commitments exactly when he said he would, whether it was sending a message, showing up on time, or completing a task. Over years, this consistency built such a strong reputation that people sought him out for leadership roles without him ever applying. Psychology calls this the predictability principle. The brain respects what it can rely on. When someone's words and actions match over and over, people subconsciously categorize them as dependable, and from dependability grows respect. Danish's story shows that consistency doesn't require extraordinary talent. It simply requires discipline. And once you embody discipline, people trust you, follow you, and speak highly of you even when you're not present. Another powerful psychological factor that makes people respect you is the ability to express your boundaries with calm clarity. Many people think others will like them more if they stay overly agreeable, never saying no, constantly adjusting to make everyone comfortable. But what actually happens is the opposite. People begin to take them for granted. The truth is, humans subconsciously respect those who are not afraid to define what is acceptable to them and what is not. Think of someone like Adil, a kind-hearted person who spent years allowing others to overstep his limits because he confused kindness with being endlessly available. He would take extra work when he was already tired, agree to plans he didn't want, lend money he couldn't afford, and say yes when he wanted to say no. Eventually, exhaustion turned into frustration. When he finally learned the psychology of boundaries, he practiced speaking in simple, calm sentences such as, "I'm not able to do that today," or "I need time for myself right now," or "I can help, but only with this part." At first, he feared people would be upset, but instead, something remarkable happened. People began respecting him more. They treated him with seriousness because he treated himself with seriousness. Psychology calls this the self-respect mirror. Others reflect the level of respect you show yourself. Once Adil honored his own limits, people stopped pushing him and started valuing the time and energy he offered. This shows that boundaries aren't walls, they're signboards that teach others how to treat you. The sixth key insight in the journey toward respect lies in mastering the tone of your voice, which shapes how people interpret your presence long before your message even reaches their mind. Tone creates emotional meaning. A calm tone relaxes people. A confident tone influences them. A firm tone sets expectations, and a gentle tone builds trust. Consider someone like Mural, who had brilliant ideas but was constantly overlooked because she spoke too quickly, her voice shaky and uncertain. When she finally worked with a communication coach, she discovered that the secret wasn't to speak louder but to speak slower, with stable pauses that carried weight. Her entire presence changed. In meetings, when she began expressing ideas with a lower, steadier tone, people leaned in. They took her words seriously because her voice signaled confidence even before her content did. Psychology calls this paralinguistic authority, meaning people judge your competence from vocal cues without consciously realizing it. After mastering tone control, Mural noticed she didn't need to fight for attention anymore. People naturally gave it. Respect often arrives not because of what you say, but because of how you say it. As we continue exploring the story of influence, another major psychological secret emerges: the ability to stay unaffected by unnecessary criticism. People who command respect don't react emotionally to every opinion thrown at them. They understand a simple truth: criticism often reveals more about the critic than the target. Imagine someone like Rohan, who used to get discouraged whenever someone judged him. A single negative comment would ruin his whole day. One day, a mentor told him, "Stop giving discounts on your mood to people who didn't pay for your peace." That line stayed with him. He began studying emotional detachment techniques, learning to pause before reacting, breathe through uncomfortable moments, and ask himself one question: does this criticism help me grow, or is it noise? This internal filter transformed him. When someone insulted him, he simply observed without letting it cut him. When feedback was useful, he listened with gratitude. When it wasn't, he let it go. This quiet confidence made others respect him more because humans naturally admire emotional discipline. Psychology refers to this as response control, a trait that signals high mental strength. When you become someone who doesn't get shaken by every voice around you, people view you as someone worth following. The next psychological secret ties deeply into human connection, the power of remembering small details about people. Respect is often exchanged through the smallest gestures, like recalling someone's birthday, their favorite flavor of tea, the story they told you about their childhood, or even a challenge they are currently facing. A woman named Zanera unintentionally mastered this. Whenever she talked to someone, she remembered tiny details that most people forgot. Weeks later, she would ask, "How did your presentation go?" Or "Did your mother recover?" Or "You mentioned you were learning photography. How's it going?" People felt seen by her in a world where most feel invisible. Over time, her reputation grew not because she was powerful, but because she made others feel important. Psychology calls this the significance bias. People respect those who make them feel significant. When you remember small things, it proves you were truly present, and presence is one of the rarest gifts in modern life. Those who give it earn respect without asking. Another important insight in the psychology of respect involves mastering emotional expressions, both verbal and nonverbal. Sometimes people lose respect not because they lack intelligence or ability, but because their emotions leak out in ways that make others uncomfortable. Consider someone like Imran, whose face would tighten with frustration at the smallest inconvenience, or whose arms would cross defensively without him realizing. People around him started avoiding conversations with him, not because he was inferior, but because his energy felt unsafe. When he later learned about emotional awareness, he realized that humans read body language almost instantly and subconsciously. He practiced relaxing his shoulders, softening his face, keeping his palms open when speaking, and using welcoming eye contact. These small adjustments changed how people interacted with him. Psychology calls this affective signaling. The emotions you signal, whether intentionally or not, determine how people categorize you. Imran learned that when you project certainty, warmth, and emotional stability through body language, people perceive you as someone trustworthy and admirable. Respect flows naturally when your emotional signals match the energy you want to give. The 10th psychological key to respect lies in displaying controlled ambition. People admire those who work hard, yes, but even more so, they respect those who do so quietly without constantly broadcasting their achievements. Think of Sarah, who spent years posting every small milestone on social media, hoping it would impress others. But instead, people grew indifferent. When she realized that true respect comes from letting results speak rather than announcing them repeatedly, she changed her approach. She worked privately, improved daily, and stayed focused on excellence rather than applause. When success finally showed, people were astonished because they hadn't seen her brag about it beforehand. This aligns with a psychological phenomenon called silent dominance. Those who display strength without shouting about it naturally create curiosity and admiration. When you stop seeking validation, people automatically begin giving it. Another factor in earning respect is creating emotional safety, something we often overlook. People respect those with whom they feel comfortable being themselves. This doesn't mean agreeing with everything they say, but rather offering a space where they won't be judged or mocked. Think of someone like Horace, a person to whom everyone gravitated because he never made fun of people's vulnerabilities, never disclosed private conversations, and never used someone's weakness against them. Psychology refers to this as relational safety, and it is one of the most powerful forms of social influence. When people trust you emotionally, their respect becomes long-lasting. Horace learned that when you create an environment where people don't fear embarrassment, they open up, they share ideas, and they admire you for allowing them to be fully human. Respect grows where safety exists. Another psychological secret revolves around emotional generosity, the ability to genuinely appreciate others. Many people hold back compliments out of fear that it will make them look weak or make others arrogant. But the opposite is true. Humans naturally respect those who acknowledge the good in others. Take Sana, who made it a habit to give precise, sincere compliments, not flattery but genuine recognition of effort or character. She would say things like, "I admire how patient you were in that situation," or "Your consistency is inspiring." These words carried real weight because they reflected honesty. People began to associate her with positivity and sincerity, two qualities that earned deep respect. Psychology calls this the uplift effect. When you uplift others, they subconsciously uplift you in their own minds. Another key psychological insight is the power of self-improvement. People respect those who are constantly evolving, not because they're perfect, but because they're growing. The human mind admires progress. Think of someone like Bill, who had average skills, average confidence, and average results. But he made a decision. Every day he would learn something new, one skill, one piece of knowledge, one small improvement. After a year, people started noticing his transformation. His communication improved, his posture changed, his thinking sharpened, and his presence strengthened. When people saw his commitment to growth, they automatically respected him more. Psychology calls this the progress principle. Humans admire motion, not stagnation. When you show commitment to becoming better, people view you as a valuable, evolving individual. Another deep psychological truth about respect lies in emotional independence. People respect those who aren't desperate for approval. When you stop trying to impress, you become impressive. Think of someone like Eamon, who used to anxiously await reactions, likes, compliments, and validation. Her confidence rose and fell based on others' opinions. But when she learned detachment, everything changed. She stopped caring about unnecessary judgments, stopped chasing appreciation, and started focusing inward. She realized respect doesn't come from being liked by everyone. It comes from being grounded within yourself. Psychology calls this internal validation control. When your approval comes from inside, you rise above the level of needing permission to feel worthy. People sense this independence and treat you with more admiration. As we near the end of the journey, another profound secret emerges: the ability to forgive without holding grudges. People often mistake forgiveness as weakness, but psychology reveals that those who forgive display high emotional maturity. Holding grudges keeps you mentally chained to negative energy, while forgiveness frees your mind and signals inner strength. Think of someone like Saif, who carried years of resentment toward a friend who betrayed him. His bitterness affected his mood, relationships, and decision-making. When he finally learned the psychology behind letting go, he realized forgiveness was not about the other person. It was about reclaiming his peace. The moment he released that emotional burden, he felt lighter, more focused, and more confident. People around him noticed the shift and respected him even more. Psychology calls this emotional transcendence, rising above negativity in a way that only strong minds can. The final psychological secret brings all the other lessons together: the power of living with purpose. People respect those who know why they wake up each day, who walk with direction rather than drifting through life. Think of someone like Mahir, who spent years feeling uninspired until he identified his mission: to help others grow, build something meaningful, and live with intention. When he gained clarity, his energy changed. His posture became stronger, his speech more decisive, and his actions more aligned. People respected him not because he was perfect, but because he had a reason behind everything he did. Psychology calls this purpose-driven identity, a state where your life has direction and your presence carries meaning. When you know what you stand for, people naturally stand with you. And as Mahir discovered, the deepest respect comes not from trying to impress others, but from fulfilling your purpose with integrity, consistency, and heart.